That would like to speak? Thank you, Jason. Come on up.
Jason Gillman, 933 Avenue D, Traverse City, East Bay Township. I'm here to speak on the road millage situation. Also, before I mention that, I'd also like to remind folks, at least the people who are watching, next Tuesday is another election. It's in my view, an unnecessary one. They're spending $70,000 of taxpayer money to avoid the November election so that it's a little more obscure and harder for people to remember to go to the polls, but that's just my opinion, I suppose. With regard to the Road Commission, I think we've probably got one of the finest makeups in the Road Commission that we've had in a long time. I have a great deal of respect for every one of the members on the Road Commission. And I am absolutely positive that from their perspective, they've done everything that they can do to try to not have to ask for money through an assessment. Having said that, I do have a prepared statement. Most of you on this board have heard my thoughts on keeping funding associated with government as close to the appropriate source as possible. I reiterate that road funding from property taxes is not appropriate, and it adds to the burden of those on fixed incomes who neither drive or can afford the added expense. Your consent is needed to put this measure on the ballot. Perhaps first, it should be considered important that prior measures have been taken to reduce the need for such funding, particularly with regard to communications with our elected representatives. Have you determined, for example, if our current state rep, Wayne Schmidt, has worked towards more funding for our local roads in the last transportation package, or more for costly Southern Michigan train projects that require matching funding and have long-term expenses associated with them? Has this board or the Road Commission contacted the representative's office to encourage him to drop the red light camera plan, which potentially incurs more cost to our roads? In some communities, they have lost money as a result of putting these in. Has this board or the Road Commission contacted the representative's office to ask about road monies currently used for the new international bridge crossing and its connectors? Believe it or not, the plan that was not supposed to cost Michigan taxpayers a dime has cost about $40 million so far in MDOT studies alone since just before Mr. Schmidt's term began. Has this board or the Road Commission encouraged Mr. Schmidt to present legislation to eliminate prevailing wage structure requirements that would not only save the Transportation Department and allow for funding of local road commissions over $113 million a year by some estimates, and in other government entities it would save them even more? Would have complete streets. Our current representative has been a consistent supporter of mandating certain features in roadways and streets, forcing these road commissions to have to implement particular features. It adds cost to road infrastructure for non-paying activities, non-revenue generating activities for the roads. Where was this board, for example, in 2010 when this happened? I know 4 of you were here at that time. What of the increased fuel costs that reduced road funding through the established mechanisms and resulted in higher sales tax revenues that don't benefit the local road commission? That's a big problem. The higher the gas costs go, the more the sales tax goes up, but the less the local road commissions get. And there isn't a mechanism to correct that. Instead, the money's going elsewhere. What efforts have been made by this board through resolution or by contact through our state representatives to correct such changes over the last decade? Now, the reason I ask this, before you put the question to voters who will be inundated with promotion for higher taxes, has this board done all that it can to address the true causality of the current shortfalls? Is this the only solution or just the most expedient? I would encourage a no vote on this issue and redirect efforts to our legislature to correct the road funding mechanisms which are currently in a state of disrepair. And I do end it the way I began. I believe that this road commission is probably as qualified and doing as good a job as it can with the resources that it has. But, you know, there's only so many times we can put our hands out. This year is going to be, in particular, a trying time, and there'll be a lot of fingers crossed from a lot of places as far as having millages passed. All I can say is this, you know, as one of those whose income has not increased over the last 5 years, there's a lot more like me who are feeling the pinch every time the hand goes out from government. And anyhow, that's all I have to say on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Seeing none.